Hello and welcome. Welcome to the CMS experiment. My name is Andres.
My name is Sonia. Welcome from my side too.
So we're gonna show you around the CMS experiment, and we are in an excellent time since we will be able to show you not just the detector, but we also have the magnetic field on. So our magnet is on, and we will be able to show you the effects of that. So Sonia is gonna head downstairs to the cavern, and I will stay here in the control room. We can also show you a little bit of the control room if we have time. And yeah, please ask any questions at any time. We'll be taking questions as well. And yeah, I think with that we can get started. I think we'll move quickly downstairs and then talk a little bit in the meantime.
So I will start to wear special objects you will see, and I leave the floor to Andres in the meanwhile.
Cool. All right. So I think it's nice if we can give you an introduction to CMS, so we can show a little bit of where we are and sort of where the CMS detector is. So here you see a map, and this is a sort of a photo taken from the Jura Mountains. So we are outside of Geneva, and in fact, the lake you see here in the background, this is the Lake of Geneva. If you look closely, you might be able to see the airport. This is where the LHCb experiment is. And you can see on the right, it says CERN, and this is in the town of Meyran. So this is about 20 minutes outside of Geneva. This is where the CERN campus is, and it's been there since many years. So it was founded in 1954. And we actually have, as you can hope, yeah, so this is where CERN is. And I'm sure you've heard about the LHC, so you can see a representation of the LHC ring here, which is 27 kilometers in circumference. So this is the yellow circle or ring that you see here. Of course, this is all underground. It's about 100 meters underground. And you can see on the left where it says CMS. So we are about 20 minutes away from the main CERN campus. You can see here a better view of the underground facilities. So basically the entire infrastructure of the LHC is between 100 and 150 meters underground. And you also see hopefully that there's some mountains and there's the lake on the surface. And we have not just CMS, but we also have the Atlas, ALICE, and LHCb experiments that are part of the LHC. All right, so let's talk a little bit. Yeah, I just described these experiments. So we'll, of course, mainly focus on CMS, but we also have the Atlas experiment on the other side of the ring, and it's a similar experiment to CMS, meaning that we study the same kind of physics, but they're in a sense a competitor. But it also means that we have Atlas as a way to ensure that our results are reproducible. So anything that we see in CMS, any physics phenomena, should be reproducible in the Atlas experiment, but their study is done fully independently. So that means their detector was designed independently, it's run independently, and their results, their methodology is totally different and independent from ours. So when we have a result from both experiments that is consistent, we say that it is reproducible. And we have two smaller experiments, ALICE and LHCb. These are more dedicated to specialized physics. I won't go into details there. But maybe we can talk about the underground areas, and maybe I'll skip this for now. We can come back to it and talk about the CMS detector. So CMS is, you'll get a chance to see it in just a few moments, but just to give you an idea of what it looks like inside. CMS is something like a cylindrical onion, which means that it has many layers inside of layers in the shape of a cylindrical onion. And you can imagine taking that cylindrical onion and chopping it into about a dozen slices. So these slices are each very heavy. If you take the whole detector, if you consider the whole detector, that's about 14,000 tons, which you can think of as 14,000 small cars or 2 Eiffel Towers, roughly. And the CMS detector has all these layers inside of layers, and they're layers of dedicated detector systems. So they all have different functionality. Yep. So I think we maybe will move to Sonia now.
Yes, Andres, can you hear me? Andres? cannot hear me. Andres, can you hear me?
Yes, we are here.
Okay, yes, okay, thank you. So I'm ready to enter the experimental zone, the proper experimental zone. So you see here a door. This is an entry door for people, and I have to pass three checks. One check is to recognize that I'm a person. You will see in a moment that I step in, and there is a sensor of weight to verify that more or less I'm a person, is not a stuff. And then I have another check that is are beam, laser beams, infrared beams. And these infrared beams, they are there to check that I'm not introducing any material, for example, a backpack, or that I'm wearing, for example, my helmet. And then the last thing is the iris check. Now, I make myself recognize with this personal dosimeter here, and I step in. You can follow me. So I hope you can enjoy this visit. I step in. I hope that the door closes. Yes, it's closing. And then I read my iris. This is a personal individual check. If everything goes fine, yes, the door is open. And now I wait the person with me, Noemi. She has also to enter through this door. Just waiting a few minutes so you can see through her device what we are going to do. She steps in, and sometimes the system complains. So this is what happened in this moment. So she has to rebadge again. It happens. The system is quite strict to enter. This is for always for security. Okay, now should be okay. She will read her iris now, right now, and she will be recognized. I hope, yes, okay, perfect. Let's proceed. Okay, and now we are in a special area that is in front of the elevator that we have to use to go underground. You will see we have the elevator was at the level that we call -3, that is minus 97 meters. And then we have other levels, the -2, that is about -80, -90, and the -1, that is about 80 meters underground. Now we will proceed underground. We are waiting, and maybe in the meanwhile, I can show you what is on the other side. So you see another green other green doors, and these are again entries for people. Is on the opposite side of the door that I used, and I see, and then we have this blue door that is for material. When we have to enter stuff that are, let's say, they have a large size. Okay. Now I think that the elevator is coming. Usually we lose the connection inside the elevator, so you see here the levels. We go to -2, and we will proceed then in the cavern. I give the floor to Andres because I think that in few seconds I will lose the connection.
All right,
Andres.
thank you, Sonia.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in the meantime, we have one question. So Sidewinder asks, I am guessing since we are able to go down into the cavern that the collision beams are currently off. And that is correct. So we are in the process of restarting the LHC, and typically every year we turn off the LHC during the winter months. In part, it's because there is a larger demand for energy since people are heating their homes, and it is actually expensive to run the LHC. Mainly, we have to use a lot of energy for the cooling system since we use a lot of cryogenic systems to keep the magnets at cryogenic temperatures. So we are in the process of restarting the LHC, and we should have the first beams pretty soon. That means sometime in April. The actual date is not, it's floating around a little bit, but it should be early April. And so we then will have a few weeks of what we call beam commissioning. And here we will not have collisions yet. We will have some collisions, but we will not be operating CMS yet. That will wait until May when we have the first stable beams. And yeah, that means that we can access the detector now. This is one of the last times, one of the last opportunities we have. So I think Sonia is already down. You can
Yes,
go ahead,
okay.
Sonia, and take over.
You see, thank you, Andres, minus 87.9 meters. I'm in front of the elevator, as you can see. And this area is considered a safety area because in case, we are in an experimental zone, which means that we have a lot of monitoring systems, but this area has been thought just to do, how to say, to create a zone, a buffer zone in case there is an evacuation alarm. It means that we can wait here in case of any issue. And if we cannot take the elevator to go back, because maybe this is nice to say that I think this is the only thing that it's different from the real life, the daily life, let's say, that we must take the elevator in case of evacuation alarm, for example, fire in the zone. And this is because here is an overpressurized zone. It means that if there is smoke on the other side, you see we have fire doors that protect us from the fire, and the smoke cannot enter here because of this overpressurization, which means that the air is pumped outside. This is also valid in case of a gas leakage, because we are using also liquid gas and other kind of gases for our experiment. Now, I think it's much better to proceed inside. In the experimental area, this is a very heavy door. And what you can see here is what is called the shaft. Is let's say, a huge hole. Okay, you can see maybe on the top is a on the top of this picture that you have now, you can see a light square. This light square is the surface. Okay, so I'm just here almost 90 meters underground. You see also a light that is coming up. This is an artistic interpretation to say that we take data downstairs in the experimental cavern and we send them for the analysis to the surface. Now I proceed here. If for you it's okay, Andres, what I do, I enter this the counting room where we have the part of the electronics that can be considered part of the brain of the detector, but it's very noisy, not for you, but for me. So usually what I do, I reach parts, zones where you cannot enter if you come here in person. So it's strictly forbidden for visitors, but I can go today. And I will show you things, but I leave the floor for the comment to Andres because it's much more comfortable for him. Okay, Andres, it's okay?
Sounds good. Thank you, Sonia.
Okay.
All right, so I'll try to multitask, and while Sonia is showing you some of the hardware in the counting room, I'll also try to answer some questions. So rather quickly, Sidewinder asks again, what is the major source of energy from the detector? I'm sort of interpreting this question of asking where does the energy come from? And we use most of the energy from the French grid, which is 70-something% nuclear. So a lot of the energy used at CERN is nuclear energy from the French grid. And then I'll switch to Sonia. So Sonia is showing you some of the hardware, and this is related to the data acquisition, and these look like tracker components, part of the readout of the tracker, which is one of the innermost parts of our detector. And you can see that there is a lot of cables, and this is part of the data acquisition. So we have to take all the information from all the systems. Then we have to decide if we're going to record that particular interaction or collision, and that's what we call the trigger system. So what you see is ultimately related to that process. But of course, this happens in an unattended way. So we cannot have a person decide whether we want to record the event or not. So that all has to happen unattended. and it's part of the trigger system. We can come back to that if there's a question about it. And so I see that there's a question about what happens if we've ever had a loose wire, how do you find it? And well, yes, this happens actually pretty often. You can have not just loose cables, you can have cables that are connected incorrectly or they're connected in the wrong place. Here's a great example of one of our cabinets where we see there's a lot of cables. We try to do as the best we can with cable management, but you can see that there's a lot of cables. And there's any number of issues that can occur in terms of the mapping of these cables. But of course, we have a lot of monitoring for.
Andres?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, okay. No, I was listening what your description. Yes, I have to say that this cabling is a job that takes hours to do, and yes, I suggest, of course, many hours makes days, makes weeks, makes months sometimes. For example, I was assembling this kind of the optical fibers that you see here. Not this is specific, but okay, managing optical fibers, and I can tell you is not easy at all. And we try to do our best to group in such a way that if there is any issue, we can easily recognize from where the issue is coming. And maybe I would like to show you some bunches of extinguishers that, of course, are here in case of fire that we can use. Of course, we have a fire brigade that is taking the job in case there is fire, but we can also act by ourselves because we are trained to do this. And I see that Noemi is still showing you the cables. Sometimes they are nicely organized, sometimes a little bit less. If you don't mind, Andres, I wanted to show you my preferred wall. That is this one. That you see now.
This is
the
RPCs.
red wall. Yes. And then maybe you can.
Be careful of the high voltage.
Yes, okay, this is, okay, it's preferred because it's red, because it's so regular. These are not optical fibers, are just, let's say, normal cables. Okay, normal. I would like to remind, as it was said, that the voltage here is 12,000 volts, which means if you compare at home, you have usually 220 to 230, and here is 12,000. This is why it's dangerous. We just gave you a glimpse. Now I go underground. Maybe Andres, you want to describe this system, and I come back in a few minutes.
Sure. So I will go through a couple of questions and I will talk a little bit more about the detector, but just quickly, there's a question from Mateo about the design of the readout electronics. And indeed, most of the readout electronics is designed in-house. Now, some of it might be designed at CERN, but we also have a lot of institutes around the world that contribute to our detector and are part of the collaboration. So sometimes these are designed from anywhere around the world and from different institutes, which could be universities or research labs. And yes, a lot of the readout electronics are custom made. And just a very quick one as well. So there's a question from Matty about whether we keep all the data at CERN and study it there, or we send it somewhere else for analysis. Excellent question. We actually have this system called the grid, where we distribute the data. So it is stored at CERN, but it is distributed around the world to many of these institutes. And there are different, I mean, there's complexity here that I'm going to glance over, but ultimately the data is distributed around the world, and our colleagues can actually submit their jobs, which means they're interested in studying a certain part of a certain type of interaction, and they write some code, and they can actually access the data in a distributed way. So let's put it that way. Okay, Sonia,
Andres?
maybe we go back to you.
Yes. Noemi, she's showing the path that we have done. So we were in the side where she is called the service cavern, because here we have two big holes, let's say 2 caverns, we call them. And I'm here on the other side. This corridor is connecting the service cavern where Noemi still is, and I'm in front of the entry of the experimental cavern. As you see here, I have a panel. This is not to take some rest. This is not a picnic area. This is because there could be a danger of asphyxia. And this is one of the monitors that we have here that are, of course, telling us that we have to evacuate. Now, this corner is very interesting. You say, why? Is it just a wall? There is a screen? Because now, I would like you to remember this place, because now I enter, I will show you the effect of the magnetic field, and I hope that we will have time coming back to show you that even here we can feel the fringe magnetic field. That is, of course, not so intense as inside, but is still. So if you would like to come to visit us, consider that you come here, you stick here, because as Andres said, we cannot enter. You cannot enter as a visitor until next December, but you can feel the magnetic field a little bit weaker also here. Now I proceed for the entry. So I make myself recognized here, and the system, as is a restricted access, will give me a token, basically is a key that I have to use. I hope that it works. It takes a little bit of time. Okay, this is my token here, and now I have a key, and with this key, I go here. I wait for a moment, it recognizes that I'm requesting to access, I remove the key, and this should work. And now I repeat exactly what I did before. I step in, hoping that everything is fine. It seems it is. Again, iris recognition. And let's see. Just a moment, because, okay, yeah, the picture. You see, now it's me. So I have to repeat. I have to repeat this. Yeah. Okay. Just the badge. Ah, okay. I have to repeat everything. I'm sorry. I don't know why. Sometimes it depends on the light.
So if you don't mind, maybe I will take
Yeah.
over, Sonia.
Yes,
And
of
I
course.
just wanted to come back to the
Yes,
detector
of
and just
course.
give you a description. So we were showing you this picture of the detector here, and I mentioned we have a very heavy detector. It's 14,000 tons. And we mentioned there's layers inside of layers, and I mentioned the innermost part of our detector, which is the silicon tracker. So this detector has a lot of silicon detectors, and the sensors are similar to a camera sensor, but we have many, many of them. So tens of millions of channels in the silicon detector. And so what we do is these sensors will generate a signal when a charged particle travels through these silicon sensors. They ionize the sensors, the silicon in the sensors, and we see a signal. And then we have to basically connect the dots. And that means that we can see the trajectory of these particles. That is the goal of the silicon tracker. With that information, we can determine the momentum of the particles. And then around that, we have the calorimeters. The calorimeters work in a different way. So the calorimeters actually stop the particles. So we want to stop the particles and measure their energy. In CMS, most of our calorimeters work with a type of sensor that is called a scintillator. And this is a type of material that produces light when a particle hits it. And the more light is produced, the more the energy of the particle. So these detectors will give us an idea of the energy of the particles. And then around that, we have our magnet, our superconducting magnet. So it is shown here. It's basically a 6-meter inner diameter, 6 meters by about 10 meters superconducting solenoid. And this is basically a massive cylinder. It's really a very large cylinder that we cool down to cryogenic temperatures, and we then inject 18,000 amperes of current to generate 3.8 Tesla. So a very, very strong magnetic field, and we have a very concentrated magnetic field inside of the magnet. However, outside of the magnet, we have a lot of steel to channel those field lines and reinforce the magnetic field outside of the magnet. And so we still can generate 2 Tesla outside of the magnet thanks to all that steel, which, by the way, is part of why CMS is so heavy. So just the steel that I'm talking about accounts for 12,500 tons of the weight of the detector. And then outside of the magnet, we have many sensors to detect muons, which are particles that are like the electron, but they're about 200 times heavier. And so we have all these systems outside for measuring muons. Okay, so let's go switch back to Sonia.
I'm entering the cavern now, the experimental cavern. And you see, I already feel the magnetic field. The door was slamming because here there is another different pressuring. And look, you see, I have this nice bracelet, okay, that I can show you. Look what is happening. Yes, of course. We can do many things. You see, I can play. And this is, okay, you see that the magnetic field is changing the orientation of this chain. But I have also these two stuff. They are heavier, of course, of the chain. And maybe I can show you what happens here. Look. You see also the chain. And this, I have to say, okay, believe me, this is more or less, I would say at least 200 grams. So this is very, and what is nice also to show is this thing that, you see, I can put somewhere here, you see. And look, if I try to move it, it stays like that, but if I try to move, you see, I have to apply a force, but at a certain point it flips alone, because you want always to stay aligned to the magnetic field. So I try to put, you see, if the magnetic field is this one, I try to put 90 degrees, but it flips. It's not me, it's just flipping alone, you see? This is gives you the idea how strong is the magnetic field. And please believe me, I have earrings here. They are simple earrings, but I feel the magnetic field pulling my earrings inside my ear. Okay, so it's really curious thing. Now what we do, we go down. Okay, so we reach the level of the basement.
So let me jump in really quickly and mention, Sonia, that at the moment, you can see that the image looks a bit distorted and it is actually out of focus. The reason for this is that the magnetic field affects the camera's ability to focus. So you might notice this from every now and again. Right now, you can see that the camera is struggling to focus, and that's because the magnetic field is interfering with the out of focus system.
Yes, of course, here we have some interference, but I hope that we can still broadcast nice video. And now I proceed, I'm almost to the -100. And here I am, -100. And now, let's see, I will try to go closer to the detector. Maybe we can, okay, you should have a picture, but just to give you the idea of the shape. Now, I'm more or less 1 meter and 62 centimeters high. So you can just, I become your ruler. Yeah, okay. I have to pay attention because my shoes, they have some metallic parts, and so they are reacting to the magnetic field that is here. And again, believe me, they can orient following the magnetic field. It's not me. But now let's go here. You see, I'm really close to the magnetic field. You can see again my bracelet here, how strong is the magnetic field. And you see, it's even, is really, I'm not really cheating. It's really hard to see. You see also this one, my badge is just reacting to the magnetic field. Here there is some metals, there are some paper clips, and they are attracted. And you see now, they were not horizontal when I was on the balcony, and now they are again. Okay? I'm
So-
really close, and here is, in any case, a fringe magnetic field. It's not the one that we have inside. That would be, I would say, a good magnetic resonance is the one that we have inside.
So Sonia, let me just quickly mention,
Yeah.
so we talked about the magnetic field inside the magnet, and I said even outside the magnet, we can reinforce it to get 2 Tesla. But I should point out that where Sonia is standing, there's much less residual magnetic
Yes, of
field.
course.
So we're talking about a few hundred millitesla at most. So it's still very, very much noticeable, but it's not on the order of magnitude as we were saying. It's not 2 Tesla or anything like that. And even then, the human body can be exposed to 3 or so Tesla in MRI machines and so on. The threshold where it can become dangerous is on the order of 10 Tesla. So where Sonia is standing is very much safe.
And of course, this magnetic field is not changing in time. And this is even most important thing, because otherwise I couldn't be here. The magnetic field is constant now, doesn't change. You see, that very curious. Maybe I can profit to show, apart the magnetic field, that this object that you see here that we call the pad, we have many all along the detector, and this makes us able to move the detector. Now, the detector, I don't know, Andres, if you already said about this, but maybe you can, as I come back, you can talk about this. The detector has been built in slices because it was assembled on surface. And then when we had to lower the detector, we couldn't do this operation in one shot because of the huge weight of this detector. That is equivalent to 14,000, I don't know, Renault Clio or Fiat 500 or any city car that you want. So this is why it was built in slices. And so we lowered 1 slice per time. And then, of course, so you lower the slice in this place, and then you want to move back towards the wall in such a way to rebuild your detector, your cylinder that I guess you have seen. And now this can be done because of these pads, because you see this tube that you have here, we pump compressed air inside this tube, and this makes us able not to lift the detector, the slice, but at least to make it lighter. Then we put some grease here on the floor, and we attach some cables. They are cables that I will show you, as I cannot avoid to fight with this magnetic field. Okay, just let me go. Yes. And the cables are here. You can see the cables that are now rolled, not used. They are here. I can put my hand to show you the sides of one cable. Then there are 6 cables here. So you see, this is one. And there is this system, a sort of horizontal crane, I would say. So we attach the cable to the detector that is there, and we pull. We pull the slice. This happens, to be honest, it's not only it happened when it was assembled, but this happens every year. 1 month ago, the detector was opened as an accordion, and then it was closed back. And then when in December we will reopen the access here, we will reopen again the detector. And then, okay, we will spend at least 1 year and a half to work on the detector, totally open. So it's as if you take, I don't know, a cylinder, you cut in slices, and you play the game to open and to reclose the detector. A sort of Lego with wheels. In fact, we call these objects wheels. The last thing that maybe I would like to show you here, and then I give the floor again back to Andres, is this view. I hope, yes, I hope, because it's dark, but I hope that you can see a little bit. There is another shaft. I remind you, the shaft was this hole that you saw in the very beginning of our path, but it was smaller. Is another one. This one is much bigger, and in fact, the diameter of this shaft of this hole is the diameter of the detector. Okay, and this is because from here we lowered the slices of the detector. A curiosity: the distance between the side of the detector and the wall of the shaft of this hole, you can estimate from here. I guess that you can see here there are two. Yes, there is the finger showing you these two green bands. And so the distance in between is exactly the distance that we had from the detector, the slice of the detector, and the wall of the hole. So it was a very challenging operation to be done. In fact, it took about 8 hours to lower the lightest slices, and the central one that contains the magnet, it took about 12 hours. So very, very low, very, very slow to cover 100 meters of distance.
Hey,
I
Sonia,
think that we
so
can do a tour. I do just a tour. You can continue to talk, and then I come up.
sounds good. So
Yeah.
yeah, so we're running out of time, so I encourage everyone watching to please ask any questions you would like us to answer. And I also wanted to just quickly mention what's coming up on the horizon. So as I mentioned, we're getting ready to start collisions in 2025, and we will actually have some collisions in 2026 for about half the year. But after that, we will go on what we call a long shutdown. So we will actually have a couple of years where we open up the detector. As Sonia was saying, we open up these slices, and we will actually have major upgrades to the detector. We will replace the innermost part of the detector, the silicon detectors that I described, and we will also replace the end caps of the detector, among many, many upgrades. And the goal of this upgrade is to drastically increase the simultaneous number of interactions that occur in the center of CMS. So to give you an idea, right now we can really push the limits of the design of the LHC, and we can achieve about 60 simultaneous interactions when bunches of protons cross at the LHC. So that means that we take about 160 billion protons, and we squeeze them to a width less than the width of a human hair. And when we cross these two beams, we get about 60 simultaneous interactions. We want to take that number to 200 or 300 simultaneous interactions in the future. And again, to do that, we will need major upgrades to our detector, but there's other very significant upgrades required from the side of the LHC. So they need to replace many of the magnets that actually focus the beams, and they need to do many, many other upgrades. So you can hopefully see this very nice view. In fact, you can see the new forward shielding, which is related to these upgrades that I just described. So let me see. Uh, so there's a question about how much energy is needed for the LHC. And there's multiple ways to answer that, but the energy of these protons that are circulating around the LHC is, if you take one individual proton, then the energy doesn't really seem uh, that's impressive, if you will. But if you take all of the protons that are circulating, I just said there were 160 billion protons in each bunch, and we have about 2,500 bunches, and there's two beams circulating. If you take all of that energy together, then it is equivalent to the TGV, the high velocity train in France going at 150 kilometers an hour, or it's something like 200 kilograms of TNT. So it's a lot of energy. I'm not sure exactly if that was the question, but there's a question also about, is it possible to survive the beam, so contact with the beam of the LHC? So as I just said, there's a lot of stored energy, so it's very much not recommended that you try this. And furthermore, you can't. So the LHC beam travels through a vacuum in a beam pipe. So the beam is never exposed to the air, because otherwise it would interact with the air and we would lose the beam. So the beam is constrained to a tube that's kept in a vacuum. So there's no way to put your hand in there physically. You cannot do it. Whether you would survive, I'm not sure, but it's certainly not good for you. And let's, I think, leave it at that. Let me see if there's other questions. So there's a question about where the main collision ring is. So the LHC, as we showed from the air, is mainly in France, and part of it crosses into Switzerland. And it's 26.6
I mean,
kilometers.
on the picture, I guess.
Oh, so we
have
don't
asking-
really see the, so if you're talking about the images we're showing, we have, I tried to convey this before, we have two beam pipes going around the LHC tunnel and they merge into one single beam pipe at CMS. You don't really see the beam pipe because it is surrounded by all this shielding. So I mentioned the new forward shielding, which is this orange stuff. But you don't see much of the beam pipe. It is directly above
Yes.
them, however. Sonia, do you want to add something?
Exactly. No, exactly. I was listening what you about the question. I tried to show at least the location where the beam pipe is, but of course it's totally covered by the shielding, but is inside this orange stuff that you see, and is going. If I can just, I don't know, maybe simulate. If you look at my hand, it's going in that way. So it's coming from this part and entering the detector in this way. So it's horizontal like that, but everything is hidden in this part. So we cannot show more than this because everything is prepared for the run. We are almost ready.
Yeah. So Sonia,
Yeah.
I think we have to wrap up. Let me take one last question.
Yes.
And we can show a little bit more of the detector, but I think we should be wrapping up. So Maddie asks,
Look, Andres, what I can do, I can already say bye-bye from here, and then you follow me just going out, and if I have time, I will talk again. So I already say bye because I know that we are running out of time. We go back and maybe we can talk again later. I don't know.
okay, thank you, Sonia. So yeah, we have just one last question from Maddie. He asked how often the collision measurements are done when the experiments are happening. Is it many times per day or something just a few times in a week? We actually try to run the LHC as continuously as possible. And we have what we call fills. So we basically inject protons into the LHC, and at some point we inject all the protons we can, and we go into a process, into a period of collisions, a continuous period, which could be, I would say, on average about 12 hours. At which point, if we manage to collide for those 12 hours, then we will dump or abort the beam, and then we will refill the LHC. That can take as little as 30 minutes if it's very, very quick, or it could take a bit longer. There are, of course, it's one of the most complicated machines to exist. So there are many problems that occur. So sometimes this takes longer. But we try to run as continuously as possible. And we run starting from May, at least this year, we'll start in May, until early December, and we will run again as continuously as possible. Okay, so I think we are ready to wrap up. We want to thank you again for joining. Thank you, Sonia, and thank you to Sultan, Noemi, and Sofia Nefeli for helping out. We hope to see you again very soon. Take care.